Mswatu inkosi ithula akayithathe akahambe nayo akayithathe yotenza bakhe wone akayithathe
Make better money choices. Choose a bank that takes your money seriously. Business Watch is brought to you by Nedbank.
Good afternoon and welcome. This is Nedbank Business Watch. Thank you for tuning in. It's the 29th of July. I'm with my co-host, Notile. How are you, Lastole?
I'm good, Truman. How are you?
I'm great.
Let's get into the program. A very good afternoon again. Most valuable companies in the world today are defined by their intangible assets. This has transformed the global economy into what is known as the knowledge-based economy. And with that in mind, the question then becomes, how do you protect an idea? And the answer to that question lies in intellectual property. This is an economic tool enabling people and businesses to commercialize their knowledge, license their innovations, and compete in domestic, regional, and international markets. And as the kingdom pursues economic diversification, industrialization, digital transformation, and youth entrepreneurship, intellectual property has emerged as a critical enabler of competitiveness. But what are the different types of intellectual property, and why should every entrepreneur understand them? Senior Copyright Examiner at the Ministry of Commerce, Industry and Trade will be tackling those for us here on the program today. And then also in conversation with economist Anele Sibia, we will turn to quarter one of Eswatini's non-banking financial institutions performance bulletin. Notably, total NBFI assets stood at 126 billion emalangeni, down from 128 billion emalangeni in the previous quarter. Stay tuned for that conversation coming up with economist Anele Sibia.
All right, and in our final segment this afternoon, Sifiso Nsibane from Nedbank Eswatini will join us today to have a look at today's markets. The oil prices jumped on Wednesday as tensions in the Middle East escalated this afternoon. Do stay tuned. After the break, we come back with our business news.
Digital helps you make cross-border payments. Human gives you global specialists. Digital allows you to apply for a loan anytime, anywhere. Human connects you to credit experts. Digital puts you in control of your money, while Human connects you to wealth advisors. Digital allows you to freeze, unfreeze, cancel, and reorder your card. Human gives you that personal touch. Digital when you want it. Human when you need it. Get the complete private banking experience with Nedbank Private Clients.
All right, welcome back. You're still tuned into Nedbank Business Watch, and now for our business news.
We begin with this. The Ministry of Agriculture is targeting local businesses to export capsicum or chili peppers directly to the European Union market by the end of this year. This has been revealed by Begin Zima, Plant Protection Officer at the Department of Research and Specialist Services during a training at Roy Villas, which has been supported by the International Trade Center and the European Union.
The EU is a huge market for us, comprises of about 27 countries or member states. And the capsicum is one of the commodities that they use on a daily basis. And hence it's an opportunity for our farmers to develop this dossier, and then this dossier will enable them to export capsicum to the EU. In terms of growing conditions, our capsicum is the best in the region, and we can produce it almost for 9 months in a year, which is one of the advantages that we have as a Eswatini. And secondly, when it comes to the export and other logistics, it still fits in that if we were to use the sea or the air freight, our capsicum can still remain good for, say, 2 weeks in the air or 22 days by sea and still retain our qualities in the market. Around 2018, the EU imposed some restrictions. Basically, they say we need to convince them that our capsicum is free from 3 diseases or insects. The first one is a false codling moth, and then the second one is a fall armyworm, and then the third one is the fruit fly, Batrocera dorsalis. So in this dossier, we will try to help our farmers come up with mitigation measures that will be convincing to the EU to say our systems are such that these 3 diseases and pests are minimized, and hence when they do the sampling, they will have confidence to say the product is free from these 3 major diseases.
The consultant, Stephen Otim, highlights some of the key areas being covered during the training to equip farmers with the knowledge, skills and standards required to qualify for export to the European Union market.
We are trying to identify the gaps within the export system, and we have identified a few gaps in documentation, and we are trying to generate evidence that will accompany the technical dossier to show that Eswatini is able to implement measures that can reduce the risk of the quarantine pests for the European Union. This is essentially what is required for Eswatini to access the lucrative market that they wish to access in the EU. So the training essentially is designed to understand the regulatory framework. We are trying to unpack the regulatory framework of the EU, understand the regulation of Eswatini, particularly as far as what the National Plant Protection Organization is mandated to do, what they are expected to do. So once we understand the regulation, we can then go ahead to unpack the gaps within our system, understand what we need to implement, and the end goal of this workshop is to come up with a draft technical dossier that is able to provide evidence for the EU that Eswatini can implement measures enough to reduce the risk of the quarantine pests of concern.
The exporters say their inability to export directly to the European Union market has been a major challenge, as they have had to rely on middlemen to access international buyers. They add that direct access to the market would enable them to secure better prices, build stronger business relations and increase their profit margins.
Local sectors need opportunity nathi ukuthi siqale ukuwenda export directly into the EU, because lokho bekuligibe lolibekulisvikela ukuthi singakhoni ukuthi nathi sithambisele direct into the EU. But ngale dossier labayakha konyalo seyithatha live seyilibeka elayinini lokuthi nalo selingakhona ukutimelela ukuthi likhone ukuhambisa umkhiqizo walo waphelepele directly to the EU.
Besithi masi approach ama customer export bo France bo England ukhanze ukuthi basitshela ukuthi Swaziland is banned, but ke namuhla sesifundzile sesiya understand ukuthi wo kunale document lemelwe ukuthi isubmit ukuze kubonakale ukuthi nathi silivela seSwatini sesifithi sesinayi system lesingakhona kuyilandzela ukuthi sikhona ukusupplya lamanye amavi.
According to Fortune Business Reuters insights, the European capsicum market is valued at more than 1 billion emalangeni, presenting a significant opportunity for local producers to expand their export footprint and contribute to economic growth. Reporting, Nelson Langamandla, Vuminkosi Nzinisa, Ezulwini.
The Ministry of Commerce, Industry and Trade states that Eswatini National Industrial Development Corporation, ENIDC, has identified a pipeline of strategic investment projects requiring funding in excess of 39 billion emalangeni to effectively execute its mandate of driving industrialization and economic transformation. ENIDC requires adequate capitalization to facilitate the implementation of these projects. This is contained in the Ministry's responses to Parliament's first quarter budget performance report. The Ministry further notes that the investment pipeline spans a number of priority sectors including agro-processing and agro-value chains, manufacturing, mining and mineral beneficiation, renewable energy and green industrialization. These projects are expected to stimulate economic diversification, enhance value addition and strengthen the country's productive capacity. ENIDC's strategic investment pipeline has the potential to create more than 5,000 direct jobs and over 14,000 indirect jobs in the medium term, thereby making a significant contribution to employment creation and inclusive economic growth. Once implemented, these projects are projected to contribute approximately 30% to national output and generate an estimated 28.4 billion emalangeni in gross domestic product (GDP), significantly strengthening the kingdom's industrial base, enhancing value addition and supporting long-term economic transformation, states the report.
Business brief. After the break, we'll speak to the Ministry of Commerce, Industry and Trade.
Attention retailers, importers, clearing agents and customs brokers. All television sets and decoders entering the Kingdom of Eswatini now require mandatory ESTVA authorization before customs clearance. No clearance without valid ESTVA import permit. Don't risk delays at the border. Submit your application 24 to 48 hours before your shipment arrives. We process complete applications in just 1 to 2 working days. Our QR-coded permits make the verification quick and easy. Always double-check your HS codes and quantities for smooth compliance. The process is simple. Step 1. Submit your completed application form. Annex A with product line items for TVs, decoders, and commercial invoice. Step 2. Eswatini TV reviews and approves. Step 3. Make payment and complete verification. Step 4. Receive your permit. Step 5. Clear customs smoothly at the border. Make sure you have all your required documents, a completed application form, Annex A detailing your product line items, commercial invoice, valid TV retailer license, and letter of authority if applicable. Our permits feature QR codes for easy border verification. For assistance, email us at license@eswatinitv.co.sz or call our help desk. Apply before your shipment arrives. Ensure compliance and avoid delays. Remember, all TV sets and decoders entering the Kingdom of Eswatini must have a valid ESTVA import permit. Thank you. Act now.
Welcome back. You are still watching Nedbank Business Watch, and moving on with the program. As the number of creatives continues to grow in the country, intellectual property has become increasingly important in protecting their work and encouraging innovation. From music and art to film, design and other creative works showcased at different events and platforms across the country, creators need to understand their rights, including copyrights, to ensure that their work is protected. The African Regional Intellectual Property Organization plays a key role in promoting intellectual property protection across the region. And we are now joined by Nomcebo Mavuso, Senior Copyright Examiner at the Ministry of Commerce, Industry and Trade, to unpack the importance of intellectual property, including copyrights for creators and the economy. Ncele, good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us in the studio this afternoon. Maybe let's fill our viewers in, just for context. What is intellectual property?
Afternoon. Intellectual property is protecting the creations of the mind. That it can be inventions, your literary works, your symbols, your logos. So, but it goes. Then it has different IP rights, which is can be trademarks, copyright, trade secrets, patents, and designs. Okay. Yes.
Please differentiate those IP marks for us.
Okay, when we talk the first IP right, the first IP right can be trademarks. The trademarks are used for distinguishing your product or service from another competitor or another person doing the same things. A trademark can be in the form of a word mark. It can be a logo. It can be a logo, a slogan, or a logo in the word. Mm-hmm. So that's the trademark. It helps you to compete in the market, because perhaps people can be able to distinguish your product from another, and they are able to choose which product they want to buy if it's on sale. Right. And when we talk of a trade secret, which is another intellectual property right, when we talk about it, we mean the things, the information that makes your business commercially viable. So to have it as a trade secret, you must ensure that that information you have is commercially viable. It should not be known to others or disclosed to others. So things that are examples of trade secret can be your recipes. When you have that product you have, maybe it's in a restaurant, the recipes you use for creating that product. It can be information, like for client information, where you get your customers. That's a trade secret. You keep it secret because you don't want your competitor to know. Because the moment it goes to public, then it's no more a trade secret. Another aspect of trade secret is that there's no documentation needed for it to be protected. You only protect it by having it confidential, keeping it confidential, because as soon as you have it out in the public, then it's no more a trade secret. So it happens sometimes that you may employ people to come and help you in the business. To prevent them from taking out your information or your secret, you need to sign agreements that will bind them not to take off that information. Right. We also have patents, which protects new inventions. When you protect your invention, through the patent system, you are trying to prevent others from entering into using a product or entering into that patent. Mm-hmm. And then the common one these days, the copyright. It is a bundle of legal rights which protects the creators and gives them rights to protect their work and also monitor how their works are being used. When we talk of copyright, we're talking of the music, the literary works, which are the books which are being written by authors. We're talking about computer softwares, arts, paintings, photographs, broadcasts, that are also protected under copyright. So when we talk of copyright, we are not protecting ideas. We protect what is fixed or intangible. Right. So you cannot just protect your idea which you have in mind, because the key component of copyright is fixation. and it must be original. You must not be saying you are protecting copyright. You have a copyright when it's somebody's work.
When it's somebody else's work.
Yes.
About these rights that you are mentioning, I understand that they are prescribed under the Trademarks Act. We also have the Copyright and Neighboring Rights Act, the Patents Act of 2018, and also the Intellectual Property Tribunal Act of 2018. And from your response, I am getting that copyrights, it's not, or intellectual property, it's not just a legal issue, but it's also more of a business strategy. Let's break down some of the myths or misconceptions that exist around copyrights. Suppose I am an author or an artist and I want to have my work published, but at the same time I am worried about commercialization or, like you said, also having my work being used or distributed elsewhere without me knowing. What exactly would I have to do to ensure that the ministry or the IPO unit knows who I am, where I work from, my work as well?
Okay. As the Copyright Office, our main responsibility is to ensure that your creative work pays.
Yeah.
You have to protect the work and you have to earn from it. So we also provide the voluntary registration, whereby you can come and register your work with us. Your copyright, it can be a book which we are preparing to publish, or your work, or your music, or your painting. So you have to come and protect it with us. That's what we call voluntary registration. The voluntary registration helps you in case of disputes, because in most of cases you find that your work is being stolen and people are making money out there. So you will have evidence. If you have your work protected with us, you'll have evidence when maybe you have to go to the courts or into the tribunal that you're the first person to protect that work. So we encourage people to come and protect with us before even going to those trade shows to display their wares, their handcraft, because that's another mistake which happens if you take your work without even having protected it. Since we said that copyright protection is automatic, and as soon as you have your, maybe let me say, your broom or your bag finished, you have to take a photo of it so that the date and time will be part of the evidence to ensure that whenever a dispute arises or someone decides to reproduce your work, so the date and time will be your evidence that you were the first person to create that work. So fixation and originality. It must be original is the two components of copyright.
Voluntary registration.
Voluntary registration. We call it voluntary because you are not forced to do it, because since it's automatic.
Okay.
Protection is automatic, but the voluntary, it just gives strong evidence.
If I'm not forced to do it, has the ministry or the IPO unit been able to quantify the economic value that our creators or just a lot of our artists are losing because of not protecting their intellectual property?
There's a lot. I won't have the exact figures, but there's a lot, especially in copyright, because you find your music being stolen, being reproduced somewhere.
Yeah.
Because the main aim of copyright, it has two rights: the economic right and the moral right. You need to be able to give consent when someone decides to reproduce your work. You need to give consent to someone to translate your work. Maybe we write a book, someone decides to take it into a drama film, that is adaptation. That's how you make money, through licensing and assignments. You license and you get money through that. So when you don't have that protection, no one, or you don't have, if you are not protected, then you'll find that your work is being used without your authority.
Okay. And in terms of the numbers, are they impressive in terms of Eswatini coming out to say we have different unique work that we want to register or be made known within the unit? Are those numbers impressive?
Yes.
In as much as the ministry is saying we have educated people on intellectual property, but it's now up to them to come out and register. How impressive are those numbers? Is it an encouraging figure to say we are seeing a Maswati coming through, we are seeing young creatives wanting their work to be registered?
Since we started the awareness programs, we've seen a lot of Maswati coming to our offices, and we've done a lot of protection, especially most of those coming are those who have business concepts, because that's their copyright. We said before pitching that business concept, please come to us, and most of them are coming to us. Those with their books, they're coming to us, so the numbers are just impressive.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we're in a time where employment opportunities are scarce. And because of that, especially the youth, they are encouraged to initiate employment or to create opportunities that will enable them to make a living. They're also encouraged to make use of the digital economy. Given that they are being encouraged to start something, what's the intellectual property that they should be thinking about from day one? Whether you want to open up a bakery or you want to run an online cosmetic store, what really should I need to be putting, or rather considering at the back of my head?
Okay. You need to make sure that your work is protected. And for the artists, we also need to register with the Eswatini Copyrights and Neighboring Rights Society, because that's the organization responsible for collecting royalties. Even if you are in the digital space, they have bilateral agreements with other collecting societies in the foreign countries, whereby they collect on their behalf and also collect on their behalf and remit to the rightful artist. So you need to it must be protected, your work must be protected, and also make sure that you register so that the collection can be easy, because they can, if you are not registered with them, it would be impossible for them to locate the owner of that royalty if it has been remitted to their country.
Can intellectual property increase the value or scalability of a business? Say in the instance that you are seeking financing. I'm just trying to get the picture of what would be the benefits of me registering or signing up my creative idea, of me actually having been a registered, or at least being part of the intellectual property.
Okay, intellectual property is a business tool. So being a business tool, especially in the trademarks right, where you have to brand your work, you encourage collaborations with investment partners from outside the country. You also encourage competitiveness in the business field. So with the intellectual property, especially your brands, we say we encourage that you come and protect your brand so that you are visible to the outside world. Yeah.
And the existing legal frameworks that we have, dated 2018, very cool. Do you think they're keeping up with the times that we live in, given how there's much conversation around artificial intelligence and social media as well, where it's very easy for one's idea to be replicated within seconds? The legal frameworks that we have, are they keeping up with that?
Okay, yes, it's keeping up with that. And we also have yet to ratify some treaties which speaks mostly to the digital content.
Yeah.
Yes, that is the WIPO Copyright Treaty. We also have the Beijing Treaty and also the WIPO Performances and Phonogram Treaty, which protects the performers and their works in the digital space. So we're in the right space.
Well, as businesses are moving online, what new trends maybe is the IPO unit observing to ensure that we get to a point where we have these legal frameworks, these laws that are enforced, even in the advent of online commerce?
Okay, our law protects. Our law was done to, it's user friendly to those doing online commerce. Yes, because it covers them, and if there's a need, because for now we don't see a need because our law covers everything, we may look for an amendment of our law if it's it's outdated.
Right. But do you identify any gaps between I know that there's had to be changes within the law in itself. Have you identified any gaps that led to saying, the ministry rather saying, we need to make these changes or have the law enacted, or in order to ensure that it is enforced and it actually works for the regular person, for the young creative, for the startup?
Okay. The gaps will be answered by the ratification of the 3 treaties I talked about. Yes, as soon as we have them ratified, then we'll be in compliance and will also be in line with international standards, because now international investors they may be afraid to come and invest in Eswatini since we are not in alignment with the international standards. So as soon as we have them ratified, then the gaps will be closed through amendments.
Right. Okay, we're going to wrap it up. Nele, what would be your parting shots to especially businesses that are coming up, the creatives that want to make use of digital space? I understand there's much talk about social media now and how they can commercialize, but more than anything, it's very important that their works, their ideas on these platforms are protected. And, just to say that it's more than just branding, it's more than just business registration. There's your works that also need to be protected and be made known by the ministry. Why is this conversation around copyrights and intellectual property quite important?
I would say for upcoming businesses, we don't have to wait for a perfect product. Come and register it while it's still at its initial stages. You will perfect it. You can always make amendments to your brand if it's a brand. So we encourage to come, and also it's not for the big gurus, the big businesses, because there's that notion that brand protection also for the big businesses. But we encourage that you do it just as you begin your business journey.
Yeah.
And for the copyright part, come for the voluntary registration, and also ensure that you are registered for royalty collection in the Copyright Society, Neighboring Rights Society.
Copyright is for everyone. Be sure to pay the Ministry of ICT, Ministry of Commerce, Industry and Trade. My apologies, a visit for voluntary registration. That was Nomcebo Mavuso, Senior Copyright Examiner at the Ministry of Commerce, Industry and Trade, and we were discussing or talking about intellectual property and why it matters for not only large businesses but also smallholder enterprises as well. This is Nedbank Business Watch. The show continues after this. We speak to economist Anil Sibia.
Attention retailers, importers, clearing agents and customs brokers. All television sets and decoders entering the Kingdom of Eswatini now require mandatory ESTVA authorization before customs clearance. No clearance without valid ESTVA import permit. Don't risk delays at the border. Submit your application 24 to 48 hours before your shipment arrives. We process complete applications in just 1 to 2 working days. Our QR-coded permits make the verification quick and easy. Always double-check your HS codes and quantities for smooth compliance. The process is simple. Step 1. Submit your completed application form. Annex A with product line items for TVs, decoders, and commercial invoice. Step 2. Eswatini TV reviews and approves. Step 3. Make payment and complete verification. Step 4. Receive your permit. Step 5. Clear customs smoothly at the border. Make sure you have all your required documents, a completed application form, Annex A detailing your product line items, commercial invoice, valid TV retailer license, and letter of authority if applicable. Our permits feature QR codes for easy border verification. For assistance, email us at license@eswatinitv.co.sz or call our help desk. Apply before your shipment arrives. Ensure compliance and avoid delays. Remember, all TV sets and decoders entering the Kingdom of Eswatini must have a valid ESTVA import permit. Thank you. Act now.
Welcome back. Moving on with the program. According to the Financial Services Regulatory Authority, FSRA, quarterly statistical bulletin, the country's financial services sector continues to show significant growth, with total assets across key sectors reaching notable levels in the fourth quarter of 2025. The report indicates that the non-bank financial institution NBFI sector recorded assets of 126 billion emalangeni, while licensed financial service providers, rather FSPs, stood at 364. The bulletin further highlights that SACCOs recorded assets of 128 billion emalangeni in quarter 4 of 2025, reflecting the continued importance of savings and credit cooperatives in the financial sector. In the capital market sector, assets under advisory were recorded at 35.87 billion emalangeni, while assets under management stood at 10.63 billion emalangeni. Credit providers also recorded assets of 4.82 billion emalangeni, with the sector's capital position reported at 3.49 billion emalangeni. And these figures provide insights into the size, performance and contribution of various financial institutions to the country's economy. And we're now joined by economist analyst Sibia to unpack these numbers and what they mean for the economy. Rather, Mr. Sibia, good afternoon. Always a pleasure talking to you. So I'll just start with the assets declining slightly from 128 billion emalangeni to 126 billion emalangeni. I mean, the sound or the thought of a decline already should spark a bit of at least sound concerning. Is it? What does this really tell us about the health of the sector?
Thank you, Notsile. Good afternoon to you and also good afternoon to the viewers. So when you look at the numbers, Notsile, for me, yes, when you say decline, it does begin to send a bit of signals or around worry throughout the financial sector. But what we are seeing here, Notsile, is a story of transition. You remember last year, we've had Eswatini Building Society transitioning to a bank, and we've seen the likes of Litseho registering as a digital bank as well. So we are seeing those movements and those shifts towards from the non-bank financial institution into a banking financial institution. So it mostly speaks to those issues, Notsile. And then in terms of the other potential reason, that being a withdrawal, that one cannot be much of an issue rather than the normal exits out of the market. But what has actually resulted in this huge dent was that transition of building society alone, taking away approximately 2 billion from the non-bank financial institutions into the banking financial sector.
This is for our viewers. This is the NBFI Quarter 1 report for 2026. And also it attributes much of the decline to the SBS Building Society into Commercial Bank, as you touched on. Why does this structural change really matter?
It matters, Notsile, because what we are looking into is the transition and the growth of an non-bank financial institution into a fully fledged commercial bank. So now that just speaks to the longevity and the long-term nature of what it means to be within the non-banking financial institution sector and what the future is. And what it also means is we have been, as a country, been able to nurture and build and regulate non-banking financial institutions to a point where they can grow and become a proper bank and be regarded as a banking institution. So now this is a very beautiful a transition that we are seeing within the economy, and it does point to a fact that probably, even in the future, we are most likely going to be seeing some of the development finance institutions, and we've also seen the likes of Litseho registering as a digital bank, and it also just speaks to the issue of, the new economy and the fintech space and how we have just revolutionized. We are living in an age where banking is changing right in front of our eyes, and it speaks to issues of growth, and it also speaks to the ability for the sector to mobilize these billions in terms of investments and in terms of capital, which can then be used to finance the growth of the kingdom. And now when we are seeing this transition, what it speaks to mostly for me is growth, not growth and sustainability.
Growth, Mrs. Beer, and as shown in the graphic, capital market assets increased to 46.58 billion emalangeni. At the same time, assets under advisory and management also proved evident growth. What really would you say had an input on this momentum?
It's basically what we are seeing is the same old story, not where we are seeing, the retirement funds, continuing to mobilize a lot of money through the non-banking financial institution sector. And that is where we're seeing the momentum. We are seeing a bit of more what we call adherence and compliance within that sector, the retirement fund sector. And you know that once they have those assets, then probably you're going to see some of those assets going into, those assets that are going to be put under advisory. And it also just speaks to the nature of the Eswatini, who is on the rise right now. The Eswatini are becoming more aware of the financial products that are around, and they are shopping around, and they are beginning to invest.
And retirement funds assets now stand at 60.48 billion emalangeni, with 28.64 billion emalangeni invested locally. How important is this level of domestic investment for the country's economy, particularly in supporting economic growth and job creation?
Thank you, Notsile. So what we're seeing here is, resource mobilization and savings mobilization to spur economic development in the kingdom. And, legally, they are only allowed to only invest 30% in the domestic market. That's the threshold. By the fact that we are seeing the number going to the upper 30s, just a few points shy of those 40% mark. Now, that shows that, even the retirement funds managers themselves, they see potential in the market, and we see growth in the market. So that's number one. Number one, it does give a seal of approval to any other investor who's not in the country who's looking into how they could be investing within the sector. And then secondly, what we are looking into is the ability, for non-bank financial institutions to contribute to overall development in the country. And I mean, we've seen the pledges that have been coming out in terms of the multiple projects that we are looking into having. If you're looking at the Manzini Mall, we do know there is quite a number of non-bank financial institutions that are playing there. We've seen quite a number of investment products, the dairy board products, and quite a number of these products that are being projects that are being run and are funded by non-bank financial institutions. And now that shows the fact that we can mobilize resources domestically and use those resources that we've mobilized domestically to somewhat set in motion a chain reaction that is going to ensure that the domestic economy thrives and gets to benefit from the resources that have been mobilized domestically. So I do take this as a very good seal of approval.
Thank you, Mrs. Beer, for talking to us. That was economist Anilesi Beer chiming in on the non-banking financial performance quarter 1 bulletin as released by the FSRA. This is Nedbank Business Watch. The show continues after this. We're back with the Treasury Department.
Attention retailers, importers, clearing agents, and customs brokers. All television sets and decoders entering the Kingdom of Eswatini now require mandatory ESTVA authorization before customs clearance. No clearance without valid ESTVA import permit. Don't risk delays at the border. Submit your application 24 to 48 hours before your shipment arrives. We process complete applications in just 1 to 2 working days. Our QR-coded permits make the verification quick and easy. Always double-check your HS codes and quantities for smooth compliance. The process is simple. Step 1. Submit your completed application form. Annex A with product line items for TVs, decoders, and commercial invoice. Step 2. Eswatini TV reviews and approves. Step 3. Make payment and complete verification. Step 4. Receive your permit. Step 5. Clear customs smoothly at the border. Make sure you have all your required documents, a completed application form, Annex A detailing your product line items, commercial invoice, valid TV retailer license, and letter of authority if applicable. Our permits feature QR codes for easy border verification. For assistance, email us at license@eswatinitv.co.za or call our help desk. Apply before your shipment arrives. Ensure compliance and avoid delays. Remember, all TV sets and decoders entering the Kingdom of Eswatini must have a valid ESTVA import permit. Thank you. Act now.
Digital helps you make cross-border payments. Human gives you global specialists. Digital allows you to apply for a loan anytime, anywhere. Human connects you to credit experts. Digital puts you in control of your money, while Human connects you to wealth advisors. Digital allows you to freeze, unfreeze, cancel, and reorder your card. Human gives you that personal touch. Digital when you want it. Human when you need it. Get the complete private banking experience with Nedbank Private Clients.
All right, welcome back. And for our final segment, we're joined by Sifiso Nsibande from Nedbank Eswatini. Thank you for staying with us. We take a look at today's global markets. A very good afternoon, Sifiso. Thank you for coming through to Nedbank Business Watch. Let's start off by discussing the effects of the World Cup. I know that it ended 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I can't believe it has been 2 weeks already, on the 19th of July. But yes, it has some effects on global markets. Take us through.
Yes, thank you very much. I think our lives are back to normal now. We were glued on the screen trying to see who's going to be winning the matches, and of course, Spain eventually took it. But yeah, of interest is some of the earnings that are actually coming out in terms of, a lot of fans were actually at the World Cup. Remember, World Cup is summer. In the US, it's summer. So one of the reports that we actually received was Coca-Cola had a very stellar performance just for this period. And they went 5% up in terms of their volumes, in terms of sales. Warm temperatures, I guess, is the reason why it was encouraged. But what is actually of interest is the last time they had this stellar performance was also in 2010, which is when we had the World Cup in South Africa. So it seems every time there's an event, Coca-Cola is doing well. Amongst other entities as well. The numbers are still yet to come out for the other entities, but we believe that amongst the consumer-driven stocks will actually do well. I mean, the companies will do well because there were a lot of fans, that are actually being supported during the World Cup.
Yeah. So moving right along, we go to UK. A big story. Prime Minister has been announced. So what is he promising?
Yeah.
Really?
So we have a new Prime Minister once again, the 7th Prime Minister in 10 years in the UK. Andy Benham. So he's actually been a mayor of Greater Manchester before now. He's promising a lot of things, but they always say the proof is in the pudding. One of the things that is actually promising is to actually reduce the cost of living for the individuals. How he's going to do that remains to be seen. I mean, we are not expecting him to cut taxes, because if you cut taxes, then how are you going to be funding most of the things that he would want to see in terms of giving reprieve for the ordinary citizen in the UK. But he is actually thinking about some reforms. But nothing really has been actually detailed in terms of how he's going to do it. But there are some reforms that he wants to propose. First of all, we are waiting for his cabinet to be put together so we can see the team that's going to be working with him. And then he will be tabling the reforms in terms of how he is going to actually encourage the UK citizens to actually favour the Labour Party. Because the next time there are going to be elections is 2029. And if they want to go back into power, they have to do something now that will make the ordinary citizen feel like, okay, the Labour is actually doing something that is actually worth them staying in power.
Yeah, let's really hope he stays and fulfills his promises. You know, look what has happened over the years in UK.
Yeah, so actually, if you remember very well, 10 years ago, they voted to actually leave Europe. And that is actually haunting them. That's one of the worst decisions they've ever made. One of the effects of actually them leaving the European Union was the UK GDP actually shrunk by between 6 to 8%. So you can imagine that shrinking by 6 to 8% is actually not very great. To unwind that is very difficult. So he's actually had a lot of challenges on his table right now in terms of how he's going to turn around the perception, how he's going to turn around the economy, how he's going to turn around even the ordinary citizen to actually believe that, you know what, UK is actually growing, there are better jobs, there's a reduction in unemployment, inflation is down. I mean, the global effects also in terms of petrol prices and oil prices are actually not helping. So it's going to be a very difficult task for him at hand. And we hope that whatever he's proposing will eventually come into play.
All right, moving closer to home, right next door is South Africa's interest rate decision this week. What can we anticipate?
Yeah, so South Africa has already decided in terms of the interest rate. But what is actually strange is, out of 20 economists, only 3 projected that there will be a hold. All the 17 were expecting a 25 basis point hike, at least. Most economists were actually shocked when the Reserve Bank actually decided that they were going to put interest rates on hold. But it was actually a 50-50, I would say, because the central bank had actually said that it is on a cautious approach. They're not as yet on a hawkish approach. They're on a cautious approach. In other words, they want to bring down the inflation, yes, but they're also looking at the weak economic growth. So in terms of supporting weak economic growth, you don't want to start hiking interest rates. I mean, we do know that the inflation that is actually in South Africa and in most of the countries is influenced by the oil prices. So we saw, a temporary ceasefire between the US and Iran, oil prices coming down. We even saw a reduction in the in the petrol prices and the diesel prices, which is going to be actually assisting the inflation. Of course, now we just started again, so we are actually seeing the price of oil going up. But they are aware that these are actually supply on the supply side, not on the demand side. There's a reason why the inflation is going up. So therefore, they are being cautious. But they did say that it doesn't mean it's going to stay like that. If inflation continues to be on the high side, they might decide to actually hike interest rates.
All right, so speaking of oil, let's just have a look on figures this afternoon. Let's take a look at commodities. And just take a look at oil this afternoon, gold.
Yeah, so oil, after the ceasefire, it actually went down to even $60, $70 a barrel. But now that the war had sort of started, I think in the last few days, they started hitting each other again, even though after they had an agreement in place. So we saw oil rising again, back up to even $95 a barrel. Now there's a ceasefire again. We don't know how long it's going to last. So we saw the price of oil come down to about 92. It has actually gone up a bit now because We are hearing that Saudi Arabia is now also getting into the fight. And it will just keep fluctuating, and we don't know what's going to be the end in terms of this war that's in the Middle East. Gold is always, like I've said before, a safe haven. So if there's uncertainty, you see the price of gold actually going up because many are actually parking their funds there. But right now, gold is actually taking a hit because there is an expectation that interest rates are going to be going up in most of the economies, so people want to actually participate in that. And that's the reason why we actually saw a temporary, or should I say, a 0.59% reduction in terms of the gold price.
All right, so moving along to currencies. The last I checked, the rand was fragile. Let's see if there's an update this afternoon.
Yeah, so the rand, as you know, it's an emerging currency. So once there is actually conflicts in the Middle East, you tend to see the price, the rand actually suffer or come under hammer. So that's the reason why we're actually seeing all the currencies, the US dollar, the euro, and the GBP actually coming stronger against the rand. It was actually even made worse by the interest rates not hiking, because right now, if you hear that the interest rates in America are going to go up, you start seeing the rand coming even immense pressure, because people want to invest where there's actually more income. Yeah. So if interest rates are going up in the US, then you start seeing funds actually being invested in the US. And of course, the South African rand will come under pressure.
Yeah, all right. So moving along to equities, what is happening today, this afternoon, with equities? Yeah,
so with equities, I think I'll touch briefly on the FTSE for an example. I think we are actually seeing very good corporate earnings coming into play, because this is relatively the half year. Remember, they're reporting. Those who have their financial year between January and December have their half year in June. So their preliminary numbers are actually coming up, supporting, or rather suggesting that they actually did very well, some of them. And that's the reason why we're actually seeing an increase in the FTSE. The S&P also as well, a lot of positive news coming out of there. But I think we will see actually a change after the interest rate decision has been made in the US in terms of the interest rate hike. It will give an indication of how investors want to, how they want to place their funds, because high interest rates have the tendency of stifling growth. In other words, loans become expensive. Capital becomes expensive, so companies are not going to be investing.
So can we expect that decision today?
We are expecting the decision today. Okay. We are expecting a decision today. It's very hard to determine in terms of which direction it's going to be, but most analysts are expecting that it's going to be a 25 basis point hike.
All right, thank you, Sifiso, for that analysis this afternoon. Well, there you have it. That was our final segment for today's episode of Nedbank Business Watch. Thank you for tuning in. You were watching this episode, and I was co-hosting with Notile Sithole. We'll see you again next week, Wednesday at exactly 2 p.m. If you've just joined us, worry not, you can still watch this episode on our YouTube page, Eswatini TV. We'll see you next week, Wednesday. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Make better money choices. Choose a bank that takes your money seriously. Business Watch was brought to you by Nedbank.